I'm going to start out tonight sharing a passage of Scripture with you from 2 Corinthians chapter 4, just one verse down from what we talked about last week in verse 7. Listen to verses 8 and 9. It says, we are pressed on every side by troubles, but we are not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. We are hunted down, but never abandoned by God. We get knocked down, but we are not destroyed. That's a pretty famous little passage of Scripture right there. I remember singing a song in youth group that quoted that particular passage of Scripture. I will in no shape, form, or fashion attempt to sing it in any way that is being recorded, so it cannot be saved to be used against me in a court of law. But I love the passage, and that song brings back great memories of the message and what we saw in it. But the part that I want to focus on tonight is the second part of verse 9 there in chapter 4. It says, we get knocked down, but we are not destroyed. See, I think there's an issue that happens within our lives as Christians, is we feel we can handle the little problems, and we can even handle moderate trouble. We can handle the cranky boss, we can handle the difficult neighbors sometimes. We know what to do when there's the fender bender, or when the electricity goes off, or when the hurricane's coming in, we need to put the shutters up. We feel like we're okay in that. If money's tight for a period of time, we can scrimp and we can save. We can not go out to eat. We can not buy that pair of shoes, or whatever we need to do to kind of try to make the ends meet well there. We know when we're sick enough that we need to see the doctor, or when we can just kind of manage it at home if we're really honest with ourselves. But what happens when we get knocked down? What happens when the little thing or the medium-sized thing becomes the big thing? What happens when the rain becomes a thunderstorm and the thunderstorm becomes a flood? My dad was a big boxing fan, still is. He'll watch, anytime he can find boxing on TV, he will watch it in a second. He's never buying a pay-per-view. He's not going down that road. But you put some boxing or some kickboxing on TV. I remember being a kid and ESPN having Thursday night fights. Many a Thursday night, boxing was on my television. As I've gotten older, I've kind of come to appreciate that a little bit. I understand my dad's draw towards that, and I watch that some myself. But one of the guys that I remember watching as he was coming up through the ranks, fighting on ESPN, was Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson had a great statement that somebody asked him about one time. And he said this. He said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And what he meant by that was people were coming at him as he was knocking people out left and right. His fights weren't hard to get out of the first round before people were just laying flat on their back. It was unbelievable to watch this guy kind of come up through the ranks as 18, 19 years old. But people would come in with a plan and a way to deal with his speed and his power and what he was able to do. And he basically was like, yeah, you got a plan until I punch you in the mouth. Sometimes life punches us in the mouth. If you live long enough, you're gonna get punched in the mouth by life. And you may have a plan, but that plan's gonna get destroyed. That plan's gonna be taken out. You're gonna be knocked down. And sometimes you'll see it coming, and sometimes you won't. So what happens to others in this world happens to Christians too. You see, we kind of sometimes get this thought process of, well, I'm following the Lord, everything's going to be okay. Oh, no, it won't. Scripture shows us that, and our own lives show that. Mine is a great example of that, of you think you've got everything together, and then you get knocked down. That punch comes out of left field. And what happens to the rest of the world still gets us too. We get sick. Our children get sick. We get laid off. We lose our savings. The chemo doesn't work. Sometimes even the Christian marriage melts down and there's a trip to divorce court. Here's the thing to remember. When you get knocked down, you are still not destroyed. God still has a plan, and God's still in control. Your plan may be out the window, but it doesn't mean His is. It's incredibly important for us to remember that just because we lay something out doesn't mean it lines up with God. But it also doesn't mean God's not going to take care of us as we move through these things. And a lot of us deal with, as we're out in the world, we deal with a lot of lost people. You know, if you have a career, you're out in public a lot, you're in your neighborhood, you know people in your community, you're around a lot of people that don't know Christ. And they will judge your Christianity mostly by how you respond when you get punched in the mouth, by how you respond when you take one on the chin. And if we are truly supposed to be, as Christians, lights of the world, as the Bible tells us, when is a light most likely to be seen? You know, I've got one of those big mag lights. You know, one of the ones that if you need it to, it can always turn into a beaten stick. And I can take that thing outside in the middle of the day and turn it on, no effect. But when I take it outside at midnight and I turn it on, it'll light up half my neighborhood. So when is that light most likely to be seen? At night. So when is the light most likely to be seen in us? When everything's great and it's bright and everything is sunny and life is good? Or when it gets dark and things are rough? See, it's in those moments where we're measured. It's those moments where we really either stand up under the pressure or we fold. So Paul's view here, when he's thinking about victory in these verses, he's saying, yeah, I face trouble every day. He said, I'm under pressure all the time. I get confused. People attack. The church at Corinth was attacking him as he's writing this very, very letter. Sometimes Paul got knocked down by life, and sometimes you do too. But that's when the power of Christ can be evidenced so much in our lives, by how we respond to the punch. And if I have victory, it's victory through trouble, not victory apart from trouble. That's the message we need to understand, is that when life hits you, it's at that moment where you show the world what you really believe. You're gonna get knocked down, but you don't have to be destroyed. Hope you have a great study tonight.